Dorgu is out for the next 10 weeks. That is the new reports that are coming in after our victorious win against Arsenal. And it's a shame. It's a shame that we are losing a player that has been on impeccable form post Ruben Amorim. So what's the takeaway from this? Is there any good news? Is there any bad news about this? Are we in a crisis losing Patrick Dorgu at this stage? So let's look at it from this point of view, right? Let's start with the good news. The good news is we're not involved in a lot of competitions until the end of the season. We do not have so many games left until the season is wrapped up, meaning that we still have the likes of Mateus Cunha, we still have the likes of Mason Mount to hold that position until he basically returns back from injury. Are we going to see him before the end of the season? Maybe, maybe not. He may feature in maybe 1 or 2 games because it is a 10-week injury. There's about 3-4 months left of the season. And of course, after his injury, he still needs to go through rehabilitation, and then he still needs to get game fit. So we might see him for probably 2-3 games, maybe more. You never know before the season wraps up. So good news is we do have some replacements that can fill that void. All right. Here's sort of where the bad news starts. Patrick Dorgu, like I said, has been on impeccable form post Ruben Amorim. Right, he's been one of our most consistent players in that squad, not only contributing to goals but also scoring goals himself. So losing a player who is currently on form at this stage is not good news. All right, and not to say that Mateus Cunha is not going to do an adequate job, not to say that Mason Mount's not going to do an adequate job, but you could say out of the 3 in the recent games, Patrick Dorgu has been the standout player. Hence why he has been that player who has been starting ahead of those 2. So it's not a good thing to lose out on that, on a player that's currently riding on form and then he suffers to injury. Are we going to get the same Patrick Dorgu when he gets back? Time will tell. Now we have Mason Mount. Mason Mount, since stepping into Manchester United, has been injury prone. All right. I don't remember a period since we got Mason Mount where he has gone 10 games consistently playing in the first team without being injured. All right. We've had him for less than 10 games in a spell before he's back on the benches, before he's back in the medical room because he suffered from this or that injury. Mason Mount, unfortunately for us, was supposed to be a good buy, but it turned out not to be. And now he's just one of those players that we are lucky when he's fit and that we can utilize him. So, we can't really back ourselves to say that, we have Mason Mount in the fold. And again, yes, we do have Mateus Cunha, but who's to say that these same players are not going to sustain or get some injuries between now and the end of the season? This is the last week of the transfer deadline. And just as I predicted, Manchester United have not bought any players. We haven't bought any players to facilitate the positions that we need. We haven't bought any players or even loaned any players to help strengthen the squad. We are relying on the same team since the summer transfer. And now we're broken into top 4. All right. The same top 4 that we've been struggling to break into with missed opportunity after missed opportunity after missed opportunity. And right now we are 2 points ahead of Liverpool, 1 point ahead of Chelsea. It's a good start. It's a good lead. It leaves some leeway for us to, get a draw, maybe lose a game, and then bounce back on our feet and not really fall so far off that top 4 position. But now that we're in top 4, it's more important than ever for us to maintain that position. Be consistent. And that means having a consistent team. That means having players fit. And Ineos, like predicted, didn't see any necessity in terms of getting players not only to break into the top four, because by the time they sacked Ruben Amorim, the transfer period already started, and there were no strong plans or intentions to bring anyone in to get us from the position that we were in. I think we were 6th or 7th by the time Ruben Amorim was sacked, to get us into the top four. But not only get us into the top four, but keep us in the top four until the end of the season. And so, with this transfer window about to close, and there's talks in the media of, Wilfred Ndidi and Cole Palmer and all of this and all of that, and we know it's just paper talk. All right, we know it's just paper talk, and no actions are going to come forth from this. And we've already heard that Ineos have no plans of making any transfers during this period and are gonna wait until the summer. Now you tell me, how does that make sense when Ineos want to be in a Champions League position but do not want to give the tools to the manager to enable us to be there? So at the end of the day, what was the honest, real point of sacking Ruben Amorim if the next person that you're going to bring in, you're still not going to back them? And then if we didn't finish in the Champions League position, then what was going to be your excuse then? And yes, we can dive more into this topic because it's more complex than what it is on the surface. But at the end of the day, Carrick has inherited such a difficult position, right? And thank goodness for him that he's just interim, right? He's not the manager. Because imagine if he was appointed the manager and things didn't go his way, and then he would probably get sacked at the end of the season for not meeting that expectation of finishing in a Champions League position. So yeah, that's Patrick Dorgu out for 10 weeks. That's sort of the breaking news of today. What do you guys think? Do you think that we'll be okay with Patrick Dorgu missing from the squad? Do you think that United or Ineos, need to at least push for 1 or 2 backings so that we can sustain that top 4 position? And most importantly, do you think that United are capable of keeping this top 4 position until the end of the season? But yeah, guys, with that being said, I'm out. Peace.